is no longer a section agenda.
Absolutely.
Rather, a popular demand across the state. But some are just asking one question: what impact will this have on governance in Ogun State? A state that has been rated so low when it comes to governance and the people, or the leaders delivering dividends of democracy to their people. But we'll come back to that.
Definitely.
The political landscape at the moment is so intense. APC continues to receive new defectors into the party. Talk about power shifts, which also happened in Delta State.
Absolutely.
Huge advantage to the APC, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So for every political party, you are formed to form government, absolutely, and then deliver the dividends of democracy to the people. And so the more part of the nation state that you have for your party, the better. So the PDP in Delta State, cascading into the APC is a big win for the party. We don't even just have a situation whereby you have individuals. Now you have the whole structure of the party. The
entire structure
of the party, even governance in the state, and then collapsing to the APC. So that's a big win for the party, and especially coming from the South-South zone, So it's almost like the South-South zone that was initially or at some time ago impenetrable by the other parties now have the data set joining the fold, and now you can say the progressives led by the APC now have a strong foothold in the South-South. And
what does it mean for the APC?
Well, it's a big win. It means that the party has gained traction, and so they can begin to count the numbers as we move ahead to 2027 and say, okay, we have the state in the bag. And so it's simply about numbers. And in politics and in elections, about the numbers. And so for the projections into 2027, especially the presidential election, you can begin to say, for this zone, this is our calculation. We have gained this momentum in the South-South, and then so if you look at it cumulatively, it's a big win for the
So how disadvantaged do you consider the PDP with this latest decision?
It's not just a major setback. It has further dipped the PDP into an abyss that has been consistent from the aftermath of the 2023 elections, where it could not put its house in order due to the refusal of the party to stick to what it called an internal, though unwritten arrangement for power to rotate from the south to south and the north. It's not even a particular party agenda. It's an unwritten accord that has sustained our unity and shared prosperity as a nation, with the understanding that, look, power has to rotate between the south and the north. And so it was expected that the party would zone its ticket to a southern candidate. That did not happen. Atiku ended up getting the party, and then he got the ticket, but the party became more fragmentized. And so from then on, it's been from one crisis to the other. And so what you are seeing today is a further enhancement of that crisis, and has further deepened the gaps and the fault lines in the party. And so the more they go to this crisis, the deeper they sink, and the higher and the more effort they need to raise the party. But for now, it's a weakened system for the PDP.
Those speculated that President Bola Tinubu is plotting a single-party state. Are they wrong?
That the hysteria about Tinubu plotting, allegedly, a single-party state is an exaggerated public opinion, in the sense that there has never been any comment, any deliberate intention to say, okay, political parties, you are conscripted into one. As of today, the SDP exists, the PDP exists, the Labour Party exists. They exist in structure, in form, and in shape, and even in people, and in structures in terms of their executives. So,
but these parties are deepened in one crisis or another.
They are all enmeshed in one crisis. And if you look at this crisis, stricto sensu, they are crises that deals with leadership contention within the parties. The PDP is struggling for leadership. Within the Labour Party, it's the same thing. These are not crises that deals with, we have external members of our party being influenced by the APC to come cause crisis. No, we know the genesis of the crisis in the Labour Party. We know what the crisis is in the PDP. The PDP own is audible to the deaf and visible to the blind. It is the aftermath of the 2023 failure to zone their ticket right. And so when all this happens, and then maybe individuals in the party, governors or stakeholders in your party, in the party feel that, look, we are in politics for gain. We're in the politics to either pursue individual or group ambition. And then it's looking as though our party, I'm talking at the party now, that their party does not look like a platform that is steady enough to pursue their personal objectives in the next election. And so they now think, okay, let me seek a safe haven. And if the APC that is calm provides that safe haven, then they move. So it is not fair to begin to accuse Mr. President of instigating a one-party state or instigating crisis in the party so that everybody can coagulate to the APC. That is not empirical. It's not justiciable. It's not even, you cannot even prove it. Right. And so it's just an exaggerated public opinion. And
I'm sure you know that's why opposition leaders and some concerned Nigerians have said democracy has been compromised. But the presidency has now called them alarmists.
Alarmists, according to
But really, the reality is that Nigerians are worried about the fate of opposition political parties ahead of 2027, Absolutely. Especially. But what do the current state of opposition political parties in Nigeria look like from your own perspective?
Even as a partisan, the beauty of democracy is embellished when political parties are able to act as checks and balances onto them. Every nation state, every evolving democracy grows when you have the ruling party and the opposition, providing credible alternative in terms of policy, programs to the, and to the government. In most nation states, America, we have the Republican, the Democrat. In the UK, the Liberal, the Conservative, and then the Labour. Even in Ghana, the NPP and the NDC. You just have to have the opposition constantly engaging government in terms of policy, because at the end of the day, the people benefit when there's what we call the alternative paradigm. And you also put the ruling party on its toes when they are conscious of the fact that there are people who are breathing down their neck, engaging their policies, and if they falter, if they're not able to meet up to their roles and responsibility as government, then there's somebody or there's some people ready to take over. But so when you don't have opposition playing its role, when the opposition itself is not even able to win itself away from the interstices of crisis, then the ruling party just sits down, enjoys itself, and the people don't get the benefit of the beauty of democracy.
So you agree that a one-party system isn't good for Nigeria?
It is never good for any country at all.
But the APC National Chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, won't stop saying more governors are coming. And, with all the opposition parties in one escalated crisis or another. So I'm sure you wouldn't blame opposition leaders when they say our parties have been infiltrated by the APC administration. And that's why they continue to have leadership crisis.
You see, this...
unresolved.
Let me do a digression. When you say your party is being infiltrated, I liken it to when people complain that the courts are taking, are playing a lot of role in determining
who wins an election.
And I say, look, the court sits pretty on its own. That if political parties don't form good internal democracy, when you are not able to manage yourself as per your own books, and then you compromise your laws, you compromise your own status, then those who feel aggrieved in your party will of necessity approach the court. And so when they approach the court, then you have given the power of attorney to the courts to intervene and adjudicate, then determine who gets what in your party. So the court doesn't sit down and go to the parties. The parties, out of their own volition and their own internal misbehavior, drag them down to the court. It's similar. When you are not, the APC, for instance, or Mr. President, tell the PDP not to honor its own internal arrangement that it has sustained since 1999 to ensure that the ticket of the party runs between the South and the North. That was a fundamental error in 2023 for the PDP. Was that a responsibility of President Bola Tinubu?
I think the PDP needs to learn from the APC.
They must learn. They must learn to ensure that you must preserve the nuances that guides the cohesion of your institution. The moment you go against it, it's a fundamental matter. The moment you affront a fundamental item that glues your party together, then you have that fabric, you have desecrated it, then you cannot blame anybody. So the PDP blaming anybody, it's just dancing, it's Jejun dance, it's dancing to the gallery. And of course, Ganduje will be happy to say, okay, we have more of you guys coming in, because why? You cannot put your house in order. And don't blame politicians. Like I said earlier, the moment they see that this ship that we are in is sinking, and unfortunately for the PDP, they have not shown that there is a capacity at this time. Nobody is even seeing where the light at the end of the tunnel will come from. And so it's about jumping out of a sinking ship.
It means you agree with those who have called these defections a survivor game.
It's a survival game.
Okay.
Pretty. That's straightforward.
And they also say it's because the FCC is pushing politicians to align with the ruling party
that's a cheap narrative. Okay. That's a cheap narrative.
Nasir Rufai describes it as all these high-profile politicians as widely exaggerated and says they lack real electoral value. I'm sure you do agree with him.
Well, people say that a lot. The moment you are not in sync with them, they begin to now query your value. But when you are together, you're of high value.
All right. So let's lay the cards on the table. APC presently controls 22 states.
Absolutely.
PDP controls 11. ABGA controls 1. Labour Party controls 1. And Akwa Ibom governor has already declared support for Mr. President. Bayelsa PDP caretaker chairman has insisted that the party will support the president, even if Governor Dayodire doesn't. So I wonder how you react to this brewing coalition, because opposition leaders have said only a coalition could stop or will stop President Bola Tinubu in 2027.
The challenge with political amalgamations that are muted in the outset of another electoral season is that...
When you say muted out of an electoral season, what do you mean?
What I mean by that is when you see them talking about it, you know, nurturing it, bringing that idea to the table, preparatory to a next electoral cycle, it's nothing but the desire by political power brokers and leaders in various sections of the country to see how they can grab power. And it's not new. We saw that happen, which brought the APC into power eventually, if you recall, the NPDP, a fraction of the ABGA by Okorocha, the Buhari-led CPC, and of course, the Ashiwaju propelled ACN at that time. That was a good coupling together, and they formed power. They left power from the PDP. So that's a model that those who think that on their own volition, these weak parties that we just analyzed, they lack the capacity to take the APC off power. And so maybe if they can come together, form a pan-Nigerian platform, coalition, that can morph into a political party strong enough to give the APC for a run for its money. That is the idea behind it. But then, we also know that, look, it is not that easy. It's not just coming together to form a party and then you feel that you are going to take away the APC.
What's not easy about it? These are prominent politicians.
There are structures to a political party.
Okay.
Your structures must go down to the wards, to the unit. It's your structures manned by people that enhances your campaign, enhances your visibility, enhances your recall in various units across the country.
You don't think former vice president has that structure? You don't think Nasir El-Rufai has that structure?
They may have. It's not for me to embellish their structure.
Opposition, you should know. They have.
Of course they have. These people have electoral recall. They've done elections. They've won elections. So they have numbers to them. But at the end of the day, they first have to agree on what is the objective for all these coalition individuals. We know what they want. We know who they are. And at the end of the day, they want power.
Okay.
So it is to the extent to which they are able to agree on and shift grounds for themselves, and above all, to be able to tell Nigerians that this is what we want, and then go around the country, market themselves, and be strong enough to challenge the APC that is firmly and deeply rooted.
I want to take you up on this Ogun's continuous search for progressive governance.
Yes.
But before that, is this the APC undermining this opposition coalition? Don't forget, some of the members of this coalition are former members of your party.
Yes.
Is this the APC undermining this opposition coalition?
Well, that's a red herring. Nobody's undermining. If you see the people that have left the APC, their grievances is well advertised. We know what the grievances of Nasiru El-Rufai is. I was called by Mr. President to retain the party, not to travel on abroad for sabbatical. I will give you an appointment. I worked hard for you. You promised me a ministerial slot. All that didn't happen, and he felt aggrieved. That is not the president now sending El-Rufai to go and undermine a party, not to go and play some form of surreptitious strategy to weaken the party. No, it is straightforward. Nobody's undermining anybody. Those who have left the party were indeed aggrieved, and they are pursuing their self-interest elsewhere. It's that simple.
So let's talk about why you're here. Or your second reason for coming here.
Yeah,
you're saying it's the turn of Ogun West.
Yes.
Others like you have also echoed your concern. I mean, what you all are saying is that you are worried has not produced a governor. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
In almost 50 years of the creation of Ogun State.
Right. But you're saying Ogun Central and Ogun East have had their shares at different times.
Absolutely.
Why this clamor at this time? And what difference would it make?
The clamor this time around is about a desire for development. I've always said that there's a nexus between power and development. And if you look at that state, the 3 senatorial districts, the Ogun West district, peopled by the Yawuri people, is lacking in terms of all the nuances of what we call development, infrastructure, social development, human capital development. All of this, they are lacking. And why that is, after interrogating what the issues are, we have been able to create that nexus that, look, to gain that ultimate ascendancy, the people of Ogun West Central District must have access to power. It is not a rocket science to understand why that, if you look at the 3 zones today, the other 2 zones have moved on, because why? Executive powers have a lot of things going up with it. And we are not saying that come and serve us power a la carte. We are saying let there be equity, let there be fairness, let there be justice. And once there's equity and fairness, we are just believe that, look, that development will follow. The people of Ogun West are not asking for power's sake. They are asking for power, for parity, and for development.
Okay.
That is the core of that agitation.
So what you've established tonight is that Ogun West is marginalized.
Absolutely marginalized.
So let's lay the cards on the table. What are the indices for you?
The indices comes with opportunities in government in terms of appointment. The indices comes in terms of promotion in civil service, in terms of locationing of economically viable projects in the state, in terms of infrastructure. When they are located, the numbers, you don't add up. You just see that
they sound like personal gains. They sound like what Ogun West is after is just to grab power. And I ask because, I mean, they say charity starts at home or begins at home. There are local government chairmen. There are House of Reps members. There is a senator.
Yes.
Development should start from there.
The roles of legislature is to make laws for the good governance of the nation. And then they have what we call other intervention in terms of facilitating of projects to their constituencies. That is secondary. But when it comes in terms of development, it's an executive function, not legislative function. The senator from Ogun West is doing fantastically fine. The House of Reps, they're all doing good in their own right and trying to close some of the development gaps in Ogun West. But the real developmental issues in terms of what happens with healthcare, what happens with education, what happens with communal roads, what happens with, look, let me give an example. We have the Tongeji Island in Ogun West today that stands the risk of going the way of Bakassi in Cross River State. Okay. Just because we have not had a governor with an executive will to say, look.
Where's that located?
In Ipokia local government within Ogun West Central District. Okay. We have a lot of land, agrarian lands in Yewa North local government, in Mekwa local government. They are not being tapped into. But if you see what is happening right now, you just see that the major economic decisions being taken are going in the direction of Ogun East that has the current governor. That was the experience in the last governor. In Ogun State, we used to have what we call the Alta Agbara economic cluster. What we expected was that, okay, we have a current governor there, expand that cluster. Even if we want to have new clusters in the state, it means that we'll just be ramping it up. not abandoning this cluster and then begin to open new clusters around Shagamu, Ekpe, Ijebudi, into Lagos State.
And I'm forced to agree with you, because one thing I've taken away from this conversation is you saying past leaders have been selfish. And you don't mean that?
I don't want to use the word selfish.
Okay.
I just want to say it's an executive decision to ensure that power and in terms of delineating economic interventions and opportunities of government have been shifted in a direction, and that has perpetually marginalized Ogun West and deposited it within the aqua of underdevelopment.
How developed is Ogun State as a whole?
Ogun State remains a bundle of potential, despite the fact that we have gone up in terms of numbers. I think we are the top 5 brackets in IGR. We are next to Lagos. We are trying to gain mop up the economic benefits of being close to Lagos. But then it still remains a bundle of potential. And this is where the issue is. The potentials, the inherent potentials in Ogun State today that can be tapped into to move on to the next level are even more located in the west part. And so long we continue to cascade and shift development towards areas that are already, you have like almost tapped up the potentials there, then you are limiting yourself. So what we are saying is, look, expand the net. Do not think that development and trying to change the face of Ogun State or move it up to its next level of socio-economic regeneration has to be in this zone or that zone, but open it up. Look at what's happening in Tangaji, opening it up. The limestone and all that we have in the other part of Yewa, Ogun Central, into Yewa North and Yewa South. Explore it. The proximity of Ota, Agbara into Lagos, tap it. That's what we are saying. When you do all of that, then you will have set the stage for the state to move up in numbers, and everywhere is equally developed, and you'll have solved the power problem.
All right. So if the leadership of the party decides to heed to your call, does Ogun West have that kind of leader, such leaders who can deliver the dividends of democracy?
As of today, the beautiful thing is that Ogun West has now moved from this perpetual naming of not having the right capacity, the right persons to do the job, to not just having the persons to do the job now, but we now have, if you look at the gravitas of state politics today, it has shifted in the direction of Ogun West. Because why? We now have individuals who are doing fantastically well, that are now attracting supporters across the states. We now have individuals with the kind of structure that can bring everybody on board. Look, for example, the senator in Ogun West today is doing legislation in its most unprecedented forms. That is a potential, and we have a number of them like that. And so Ogun West now has the human capacity to bring to the table in 2027 and tell the party that, look, support us in this direction.
There are rumors that it's not loved by his people.
It is a life from the pit of hell. You know, I said this somewhere that if you and I are both pursuing something, you are going to go all in to discredit me. And that narrative of that the senator from Ogun West is not from Ogun State is a narrative that is unsustained, unproven, and just remained a horse created to cast aspersion on the performing senator. All right,
2027 is just 2 years away.
Absolutely.
To see how this goes. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Bolaji Adeniji, communication consultant, Ogun APC chieftain and convener, Ogun West Initiative. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night, everyone.